Coming up on our newscast tonight. President Moon Jae-in delivers his New Year's speech. He touches on working towards achieving ultimate peace on the peninsula, creating a new economic model, improving the lives of the people across the board, and eliminating inequality. The dawn of the new year will also imply some major changes for South Koreans, such as higher public transportation fees and disposable plastic bags disappearing at large supermarkets across the nation. U.S. President Donald Trump responds via Twitter on his North Korean counterpart's New Year address. The U.S. president says he, too, looks forward to another summit and refers to Kim Jong-un as someone who is aware of the regime's great economic potential. NEWSCENTER begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. President Moon Jae-in delivered his New Year's address today. He pressed hard on improving the economy and eliminating inequality. The South Korean leader also pledged to continue denuclearization and peace efforts. Shin Se-min has our top story.
President Moon Jae-in's proposal for the brand new year of 2019 is to build a nation in which everyone can prosper together. In his New Year speech, President Moon urged the creation of a new economic model for South Korea, saying the country's economy right now faces the challenge of persistently slow growth. His plan for the coming 12 months is to improve the lives of the people across the board.
2019년은 정책의 성과들을 국민들께서 삶 속에서 확실히 체감할 수 있도록 최선을 다하겠습니다. 국민의 삶이 고르게 나아지고 불평등을 넘어 함께 잘 사는 사회로 가는 첫 해로 만들어 보겠습니다.
The president said he will call for interested parties to make compromises and concessions so that economic growth can be felt by everyone, something he said will require patience. On the issue of job creation, the president also promised to build 30,000 smart factories and to create a regulatory sandbox for new businesses in the IT and communication sectors. On his drive for ultimate peace, the president promised to do even more and to cement the gains already made.
지금 우리가 누리는 평화는 아직까지는 잠정적인 평화입니다. 새해에는 평화의 흐름이 되돌릴 수 없는 큰 물결이 되도록 최선을 다하겠습니다.
He said through the ultimate denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, the country can open up an era of peace and prosperity. Looking ahead, President Moon said peace on the Korean peninsula will connect countries to the north and south of the nation, including countries like Russia, China, and Southeast Asia, ultimately creating an era in which peace in the region gives the economy another push. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Economy and electoral reform were the two key words lawmakers highlighted during their New Year's addresses today. The ruling party said that the nation's economy clearly took a step forward last year, adding they will work to make a difference that could be felt by the public. The main opposition Liberty Korea Party and centrist Bareunmirae Party, meanwhile, claim the current situation needs to be improved to revitalize the market and to create more good jobs for young people. On electoral reform, while the two largest parties did not mention the issue, the three minor opposition blocs stressed the revision of the electoral system is one of the most important tasks of 2019, adding they will put their utmost efforts to bring in a mixed-member proportional representation system to improve the economy and people's livelihoods. The heads of South Korea's top 5 conglomerates laid out their visions and strategies for the new year. In 2019, even the nation's corporate giants faced major challenges due to slowing growth and rising trade protectionism. For details, let's turn to our Kim Ji-yeon.
The buzzwords for Korea's top 5 conglomerates to kick off the new year are innovation, strengthening competitiveness, and future readiness as they face a variety of uncertainties. At Digital City Samsung Electronics headquarters in Suwon, co-vice chairman and CEO Kim Gi-nam celebrated the company's 50th anniversary since its founding. He laid out Samsung's vision to become one of the most advanced IT companies that lasts a century. He said the company must overcome obstacles by creating a corporate culture of learning from past failures and encouraging challenges, calling it crucial to the development of the next generation of goods and innovative technology, as well as nurturing new industries. In his New Year's speech, Chung Il-sun, executive vice chairman of Korea's largest automaker Hyundai Motor Group, called for changes and innovation in how the automaker thinks and operates, saying they're the game changers in the global market. Chung said the group plans to launch 13 new models in the key U.S. and Chinese markets and strengthen operations in emerging markets like India and Southeast Asia. Together with its affiliate Kia Motors, they're aiming to develop 44 hybrid all-electric and hydrogen fuel cell electric models by 2025 and want to sell 1.67 million units of the models each year as part of its clean mobility strategy. The CEO of Korea's second-largest chipmaker, SK hynix, Lee Seok-hee, emphasized turning risks into opportunities amid falling global DRAM prices and fears of an end to the semiconductor boom. Through innovation, Lee laid out plans to bring the company's market value to almost $90 billion in 3 years. LG Group Chairman Koo Kwang-mo emphasized consumers, saying providing goods and services that change consumers' lifestyles and to do that faster than anyone else are the standards LG should pursue. Jong-un, chairman of the country's largest steelmaker POSCO, called for perseverance in the face of rising trade protectionism. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
South Koreans will experience several changes in 2019. For starters, public transportation fees will rise across the nation. Plastic bags will be prohibited at large supermarkets. Our Yoon Jung-min explains how they would affect our daily lives.
Public transportation fares in South Korea are rising with the start of the new year. At the stroke of midnight on Tuesday, basic taxi fares in the cities of Daejeon and Ulsan went up from around $2.50 to $2.95. Fares in the southwestern city of Gwangju will also rise later in January, while the capital Seoul will see fares rise either late this month or in early February by about 70 cents to $3.39. Fares are also going to rise for buses, including long-distance, local, and those in between. Exactly how much they'll rise hasn't been decided yet, but it's expected they'll go up by as much as 10% to adjust for inflation. Higher transportation costs are likely to raise overall consumer prices and will especially affect people in the lower income brackets. There are other new rules too that'll affect people's daily lives. Starting New Year's Day, plastic bags cannot be sold or given to customers in supermarkets bigger than 165 square meters. Shoppers are advised to carry their own reusable or paper bags instead. There will also be tax benefits for drivers who replace their old diesel cars. For cars registered before 2008, the government will reduce consumption taxes by 70% if the owner buys a new car and scraps the old one. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
With North Korea-U.S. talks stalled, extra attention was paid to Kim Jong-un's New Year's address, that perhaps it could help provide somewhat of a breakthrough. While the State Department decided not to comment on it, President Donald Trump was more candid, expressing hopes of holding another summit with the regime's leader. Lee Ji-won shares with us his remarks.
In response to Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech, U.S. President Donald Trump said he too looks forward to meeting with his North Korean counterpart. President Trump on Tuesday evening tweeted the comment together with part of news report that says Kim Jong-un is ready to meet President Trump anytime. He referred to Kim as someone who realizes that North Korea possesses great economic potential. Trump's tweet also included the part of the report where it said the regime will not make or test nuclear weapons or give them to others. This follows the North Korean leader's New Year speech early on Tuesday, where he said he is firmly determined to denuclearize. But Kim also said should the U.S. not keep its promise to the world and only urge the North to take measures, Pyongyang will have no choice but to find other ways to settle peace on the Korean peninsula. And in making a peaceful and prosperous peninsula, Kim said efforts for multi-party talks should be made to change the current armistice agreement to a declaration to end the Korean War and have South Korea cease all military drills with other foreign sources. Kim Jong-un's New Year speech was long awaited by many around the world as it was hoped to provide a breakthrough in the current months-long deadlock in the denuclearization talks. But the U.S. seemed to be careful on its evaluation of the speech. A U.S. State Department spokesperson speaking to Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency on the condition of anonymity on Tuesday said the U.S. declines the opportunity to comment. While such a response is uncommon, some watchers say that the temporary shutdown of the U.S. federal government may have been a reason for it. Meanwhile, major U.S. media outlets reported on how the deadlock still continues. The New York Times said that the nuclear negotiations are back at square one, as the North's demands are not that different from before the summit. And the Washington Post cited a senior analyst who said that the U.S. should move decisively in the new year to find out how far Kim is willing to go towards a verified cap on his arsenal. 이지원, Arirang News.
The North Korean leader's 2019 New Year's address was different from that of previous years in many ways. A much milder atmosphere than the past, with messages that show a strong will to further improve relations with South Korea and the United States. Oh Jeong provides an analysis of the speech with the help of some experts.
Standing at a podium, speaking in a hard and stiff tone while highlighting the nuclear button on his desk. That was North Korean leader Kim Jong-un making his New Year's address at the start of 2018. But this year, Kim Jong-un went with a softer, warmer approach. Walking into a nicely decorated study holding papers, he addressed his people sitting down on a sofa in a format that the Seoul government called unconventional. And for the first time, Kim Jong-un promised complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula with his own voice.
조선반도의 항구적이며 공고한 평화 체제를 구축하고 완전한 비핵화해로 나가려는 것은 우리 당과 공화국 정부의 불변한 입장이며 나의 확고한 의지입니다.
Kim also stressed that North Korea has not been making any nuclear weapons, which is a fairly new claim that adds to the regime's moratorium on nuclear tests, aiming to remove the international community's concerns on nuclear weapons production. Kim did warn of having to find a, quote, new path unless the U.S. takes reciprocal measures, but he at the same time toned it down by leaving it as a possibility. Some in the U.S. say that Pyongyang offered an olive branch with sharp thorns, but this expert sees it differently.
Kim is not threatening to walk the new path. He's putting much more weight on complete denuclearization and North Korea-U.S. negotiations. He's saying that he can't help but look for a new path if the U.S. keeps on unilaterally forcing Pyongyang without corresponding measures. The new path is only rhetoric.
In terms of inter-Korean relations, Kim hinted that Pyongyang's main focus this year will be on resuming the joint factory park, the Kaesong Industrial Complex, in South Korean tours to the North Mount Kumgangsan.
북과 남이 굳게 손잡고 결의에 단합된 힘에 우거한다면 외부의 온갖 제재와 압박도 그 어떤 도전과 시련도 민족 번영의 활로를 열어나가려는 우리의 앞길을 가로막을 수 없을 것입니다.
It's a message that South Korea should move to persuade the U.S. and the international community to lift sanctions.
Pundits believe that Pyongyang has a strong will to enhance its relations with Seoul and Washington in the new year, while continuing domestic efforts to boost economic growth. They also say that declaring an end to the Korean War and signing a peace treaty may become a major agenda in 2019, as Kim called for multilateral negotiations on ending the armistice status and setting lasting peace. Oh Jeong, Arirang News.
The envoys of Seoul and Washington started the year working closely together. According to the nation's Foreign Ministry's Special Representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, Lee Do-hoon spoke on the phone with his American counterpart Stephen Biegun early Wednesday for about 30 minutes. The two diplomats exchanged views on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech, discussed the latest developments in America's communications with the regime, and planned their strategy for denuclearization and peace on the Korean Peninsula. The duo last met in person just over a week ago when Biegun was in Seoul for the second round of South Korea-U.S. working-level talks. Last year, the UN Security Council's Committee on North Korea Sanctions approved a total of 17 sanctions waivers. Voice of America reported Wednesday, citing a report written by a committee official from the Netherlands, that 15 of the waivers were granted pursuant to a rule passed by the Security Council, allowing exemptions for organizations providing humanitarian assistance to the North Korean people. The committee didn't specify which countries or organizations got the waivers. One was granted recently was so that two Koreas could inspect their railways together. As of Wednesday, sanctions applied to 80 individuals and 75 organizations. The nation's defense chief once again stressed that even after the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul sometime in the future, U.S. troops and the Combined Forces Command will remain in South Korea. Jeong Kyung-doo's remarks came during an appearance on a local TV program last night, where defense, foreign and unification ministers discussed defense and foreign relation policies. He added the exact timing of the OPCON transfer is not yet determined, but Seoul has been preparing for the changes for a decade, and now is the time to implement the necessary steps. The South Korean Ministry of National Defense expressed deep dismay over Japan's repeated lopsided claim on a recent radar spat. This comes despite last week's agreement made between Seoul and Tokyo to continue working-level consultations on the matter. The nation's defense ministry reiterated its position that the South Korean naval ship did not lock the SDIR-180 fire control radar on a Japanese patrol aircraft. The ministry also urged Japan to stop distorting facts and asked for Tokyo's apology over the aggressive low-altitude flight as shown in the released video that was sudden and threatening to a South Korean destroyer focusing on rescue operations of a distressed ship in international waters. Seoul also asked Tokyo to continue working-level consultations on the matter. Here in the nation, procedures have begun to seize the assets of a Japanese steelmaker to compensate the Koreans forced to work for it without pay during World War II. A court ruled last October that Nippon Steel and Sumitomo Metal Corporation has to compensate 4 people an amount worth around $87,000 each. The plaintiffs applied to the court Wednesday for a compulsory execution of the ruling by seizing Nippon Steel shares in a joint venture with South Korean steelmaker POSCO. The shares are worth around $9.8 million. The plaintiffs' lawyers warned the company they would take this step unless it responded to the court's verdict by 5 p.m. December 24th. The latest government data shows online goods sales made up more than 20% of the total retail sales in November last year. Statistics Korea says this is the highest proportion of online sales since related figures were first compiled back in 2001. Ko Ryuni help us look beyond the numbers.
Online shopping keeps growing and growing. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, e-commerce goods sales made up 20.5% of the total retail sales in South Korea in November. The data does not include online transactions for services. Statistics Korea said the increasing popularity and development of mobile payment platforms such as KakaoPay is behind the trend, along with cheaper prices and the ease of comparing prices online. This percentage is higher than in other major countries like the U.S., where according to the U.S. Department of Commerce, combined online sales of goods and services accounted for less than 10% of total retail sales in the third quarter of 2018. The total value of online purchases also hit an all-time high in November. Data shows the total online transactions in November had a value of $9.5 billion, up 22.1% on year. This was mainly due to many Korean companies participating in events similar to Black Friday in the U.S. and China's annual Singles' Day sales event during the month. Major online malls offered their biggest discounts in November to compete with foreign companies. Breaking it down by item, transactions in electronics and home appliances jumped by almost 30% on year. Statistics Korea said more people purchase electronic products related to fine dust, such as air purifiers. Transactions in the food and beverage category also increased by more than 30%, as many one-person households bought instant meals online. Purchases made through mobile devices such as smartphones also jumped 28% on year. 고르니, Arirang News.
The nation's central banker says the U.S. Federal Reserve has struck a less hawkish tone in recent months and that if it slows down its rate hikes this year, that would help stabilize the market. At a meeting with the press Wednesday, Lee Ju-yeol told reporters the Bank of Korea will consider both macroeconomic and financial stability in making its monetary policy, but that the Fed's rate hikes will affect policy to a considerable degree. The BOK governor added inflation forecast for this year could be lowered from the earlier projection of 1.7% due to lower global oil prices. Seoul stock markets closed lower on their first trading session of 2019. The Kospi fell 1.5% to 2010, the lowest level in 2 months, on investor concerns about a slowing Chinese economy. The benchmark index opened the session higher but started falling at around 11 a.m. after Beijing released its Purchasing Managers Index for December, which is based on a survey of how businesses are doing. At 47.7, it fell below 50 for the first time in 19 months. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also closed lower by about 1%. Samsung Electronics was runner-up on a list of the top corporate patent holders between the years 2013 and 2015. Its local rival LG Electronics and several other South Korean companies also made it to the list of 50 firms. Jeong zooms in on this global ranking.
The World Intellectual Property Organization's annual report, World Intellectual Property Indicators 2018, shows Samsung Electronics ranked second in the total number of patent families between 2013 and 2015. A patent family refers to a set of patents taken in various countries to protect a single invention. It's the same invention disclosed by a common inventor and patented in more than one country. Computer technologies were the largest single category for Samsung's patent applications, making up roughly 30%, followed by digital communications and semiconductors. South Korean corporate giants LG Electronics and Hyundai Motor were ranked 9th and 18th, respectively. Japanese imaging and optic firm Canon topped the list. Japan also had the largest number of firms at 20 on the top 50 list. China was next with 13. South Korea had 7, the third most companies by country. U.S. and German companies also had a significant amount of patents. In 2015 alone, China filed the largest number of patent applications, roughly 50% of the entire global volume, followed by Japan, the U.S., and South Korea. Jeong, Arirang News.
South Korea's Air Force selected the country's very first female test pilot in the Air Force's history. Captain Jeong is the fearless individual making history by taking on this challenging role. Park Joo-won gets us better acquainted with this trailblazer.
South Korea's first female Air Force test pilot started her 46-week training earlier Wednesday, the second day of this new year. The Republic of Korea Air Force announced Captain Jeong has been selected as one of this year's 3 new test pilots, along with Captain Lee Chol-soo and Captain Woo Yong-gyun. Their training, almost a year long, started at the 281st Flight Test Squadron located in the southeastern city of Sacheon in Gyeongsang-namdo Province. She entered the Air Force Academy back in 2005 and has been serving as a KF-16 jet fighter pilot, clocking up about 1,000 flight hours so far.
I started dreaming of becoming an Air Force test pilot because I wanted to be the first to examine a wide range of aircraft equipment. I will do my best to live up to the title of first female test pilot and will help my fellow fighter pilots who conduct military operations.
After her training, Jeong is expected to conduct various kinds of testing missions, including the development of the South Korean-made KF-X, which the military aims to complete sometime around 2022 or later. Since 1990, the nation's Air Force has selected 42 test pilots, all males, after a rigorous selection process because their job of testing the safety of newly developed aircraft is more dangerous than flying regular fighter jets. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle back at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, the cold wave that had us usher in the New Year shivering is finally weakening, it seems.
Yes, Daniel, we are finally going back to seasonal norms, accompanied by some clear skies tomorrow, as well as a westerly warm front blowing towards East Asia. And temperatures might be rising, but we still need to be careful of the dry conditions as well, especially here in the capital and the East Coast, where dry weather warnings are currently in place. And readings might go higher in the afternoon, but Thursday morning is forecast to be as cold as today. Seoul will kick off at -7 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at -14 degrees, while Busan and Jeju looks a bit better at -1 and 4 degrees. Sunny skies nationwide will help boost up the mercury. Tomorrow, Seoul will make it up to 2 degrees in the afternoon. Daegu and Gyeongju tops to 5 and 6 degrees respectively. Now, with no immediate signs of cold wave in the days to come, Friday temperature readings are expected to rise beyond the norms. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for you in tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. As always, thanks for staying with us.